What is up, guys? Happy Thursday. We made it. Week 4. We got Seattle at Arizona tonight. Looking forward to an NFC West showdown, and all teams in the NFC West with a winning record right now. So it should be a fun game tonight. I'm looking forward to it. If you guys are new to the Fantasy Fellowship, hello, my name's Kyle. We're going to hang out for the next half an hour or so, and we do this on Thursday nights. I'm going to just kind of read the player news and things and get you guys updated. If you want to get your question in the chat, we'll get to those shortly. And good evening, Mr. Magic. I see you in there. I'm going to hit refresh on this underdog feed, and we'll kind of read through the reports for you guys. There's a few bombs in here that we have to get through. So let's get going. So Jaguars, Dyami Brown limited in practice today. I know we kind of talked about him missing practice yesterday and liking Parker Washington, but this puts him on track to play. So this is one we're going to want to monitor going into week 4. I kind of have a feeling the Jags might kind of go into San Francisco and they might have a chance to win this game. The 49ers are going to be likely without Jauan Jennings, who doesn't practice again today. Brock Purdy, though, limited. So I think they're getting Brock back, probably without Jauan Jennings. And then Ricky Pearsall, I believe, did practice today. We have Michael Mayer not practicing with a concussion for the Raiders. I think he's probably doubtful at this point. Davante Adams, though, this is one of the bombs that I mentioned just a bit ago. He's not practicing today, which that's concerning. Back-to-back DNPs. To me, this kind of reads as you're not going to play in week 4 here, Davante. So there's these older players that don't really need a lot of practice reps. They technically get a little bit more slack. And if he does practice tomorrow, he should be good. But if he misses tomorrow, we're fully panicking. And Puka Nacua, man, how many targets can he get? 20 targets in this game. So we're watching Davante Adams. Zach Charbonnet is active tonight. Cardinals cornerback Will Johnson inactive tonight. So there goes the Puka Nacua numbers. What else do we got? Evan Ingram practicing in full. Who cares? Tristan Wirfs practicing in full. Big news for Tampa Bay. Lane Johnson for the Eagles practicing. Good to see. What else do we got? Some Cowboy cornerbacks fully practicing. Isaiah Likely limited today. I am expecting to see Likely in week 4 here. He's on track to play for the first time this season. Good news for Xavier Worthy practicing in full. You'll love to see it. Noah Fant, concussion, not practicing. If you need someone dirty, Mike Gesicki could maybe help you out. Justin Fields officially practicing in full. This looks good to go for him. It looks like he's going to be available on Monday Night Football against the Dolphins. Josh Reynolds, who cares? Here's the other bomb that I mentioned. Bill Krosky Merritt does not practice again today. They kind of hinted that this might have been precautionary yesterday, but for him not to practice today, that is a concern. So he's on the doubtful side of things right now. I did tweet out earlier today that you should probably double check and make sure Chris Rodriguez is not available in your league. So Chris Rodriguez, he actually started the game last week. I think he got over double-digit carries. He's going to be almost a must play at this point. If this backfield gets consolidated to just Rodriguez and McNichols, Rodriguez is the play there. So we'll see about Krosky Merritt tomorrow. I'm expecting Terry McLaurin, who didn't practice today, to be out in week 4. Jane Daniels limited. I think he's on track to playing. What else we got? No Alec Pierce. I think Adonai Mitchell will just step right into that number 2 role. Josh Downs will still be the number 3 slot receiver. Maybe he gets a slight uptick in numbers here, but I'm kind of just thinking Michael Pittman, just play Michael Pittman and think about Josh Downs unless you really need to get Josh Downs in there. I don't want to have to do that. We got an upgrade from Malik Neighbors, who did not practice yesterday, limited today. Good news. Xavier Legette not practicing today. I think he's probably not playing. No Colston Loveland either for the Bears. Back-to-back DNPs for him. I think if you need a tight end, Cole Kmet could be your guy this weekend. Let's see. This one was interesting. The Brandon Ayuk is not close to returning. It's week 4. In week 5, all the guys that are on the PUP list are now going to be eligible to get lifted onto the squad. So Ayuk not close yet. So we have to hold on for some more reports in the future. And then we're into the Wednesday stuff here. So there you have it. All of the reports that you guys need there. And again, good evening, Mr. Magic. Kamara or Brees rest of season. So I actually picked up Kendre Miller today in my most important league. I cut Dylan Sampson. I picked up Kendre Miller. One, I'm very concerned about the Saints offense the rest of the season. Actually, the Saints as a whole, like the offense has actually been good. They've been throwing the ball and doing a lot of nice things. So I don't have an issue with the Saints offense, even though their team's not good. They have been scoring fantasy points, but Kamara really hasn't been scoring fantasy points. He's not really being used as a receiver yet, and his rushing numbers just are not all that impressive. So I think I'm going to take Breece Hall here over Alvin Kamara rest of season. I think that excites me a little bit more here. I'm looking for, there's some really fun charts from Hayden Winks here in Underdog. I'm nervous. Like there's a chance that Kamara does get traded, which actually would be really cool. So we'll see about this, but I'm going to go Breece Hall rest of season. Good evening to Joshua. We just traded Chase Brown, Travis Etienne, Trey Tucker, and Diggs for Genty and Drake London. So you basically send Chase Brown and Etienne to get Genty, and you get Trey Tucker and Diggs to get London. So I like the upgrades here. I am a little concerned about Atlanta's passing offense right now. We need to see a spark here before their week 5 bye week. They get the Washington Commanders. It is a good spot to be able to throw the ball against the Commanders. That's one of their weaknesses. And we just need more creativity. And maybe that injury to London that happened in week 1, maybe that weighed a little bit on them or on London. And hopefully now the Commanders matchup can kind of lighten the load here. So I like the trade. You upgraded, I think. Mr. Magic says trade Pollard, Keenan, and Pittman for Breece and Sutton. I'm going to keep Pollard, Keenan, and Pittman here. I don't know. Like, Keenan's the best receiver on this list. I think Sutton's close. I'm going to keep the 3 good. I like the 3 players that you got there. Or for Kamara and Ricky. Kind of the same thing for me. I'm going to end up keeping Pollard, Keenan, and Pittman. Yeah, I would hope he's going to be able to get a limited practice in tomorrow and be fine. But hamstrings, I don't like hamstrings, man. And good evening, Harris. Hope you're doing well, bud. He's asking Dak Prescott or Jared Goff. I'm pretty terrified for both of these matchups. These quarterback matchups for Goff and Dak are not great. Green Bay here, number 2 against, and your tag might be over it, but the Packers here are number 2. They're allowing under 12 points per game to the quarterback position. And the Cleveland Browns, they're 15th here. They've allowed 6 passing touchdowns. A lot of that was to Lamar Jackson, 15.28 points. I think you play Goff here at home against the Browns. I'm a little nervous about Dak without CD. Jordan Mason or Scatabo, huh? This one's pretty easy for me. I think the Scatabo hype is real. I think he's a good player, but I think you got to play Jordan Mason against the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. The Steelers are middle of the road against opponent running backs. They haven't allowed a lot of receiving work to them, but they're one of the worst teams in allowing rushing yards. And I think Minnesota is going to come in here and just try to run the ball. So I'm going to take Jordan Mason pretty easily over Scatabo. I think the Giants, with a rookie quarterback against a really good team in the Chargers coming to town. Chargers have been pretty stingy against the running backs in general. I think we're going to want to learn and see what Jackson Dart does for this offense before we trust it. I think you probably got to play. You probably got to stick with our guy, Jordan Mason here. Jared Goff or Michael Penix. It's not close. We're going Jared Goff. I'm also in the camp that Brian Thomas Jr. will be fine, Josh. I think actually one of the charts. So this is the Underdog. Like, Underdog puts out good stuff. Their fantasy content with Hayden Winks and Josh is pretty good stuff. And there was one chart in here that got me pretty pumped up about Brian Thomas Jr. And me being a sick Jaguars fan, that's one of my teams. I've dissected their games. I've watched their games probably 2 times each, so far through the first 3 games. And what I'm seeing with Brian Thomas Jr. is he's still getting open. He's still able to generate some big plays. He's just not catching the ball. And here's the chart that I was mentioning here. This is the wide receiver fantasy usage by team. The Jags are number 2 here. Like, this is expected half PPR points, so there's probably even more points to be had here. The Jags are just dropping passes, and I know Trevor Lawrence is not perfect, but it doesn't help when you have 13 drops on the season from your players and a couple of them for touchdowns. I think better days are ahead for Jacksonville. And I don't know, man. San Francisco without Nick Bosa, they were also maybe missing one of their other edge players here. This might be a sneaky spot for the Jags passing offense here. And good evening to Chase as well. Chase, everybody wants to know if they should start you this weekend against the Denver Broncos. Mason or Benson is the question. I do feel safest with my guy, Jordan Mason. I think this is a good opportunity to learn what we have with Trey Benson. I do think Emari Demercado will be out there for obvious passing situations, whether that's 2-minute drill, maybe some deep, long third down work, things like that. And maybe if the game gets out of hand, maybe he's out there in the fourth quarter. I think Mason is the goal line back, which is nice. Benson is the goal line back probably, but we really don't know. And I don't really have a lot of faith in the Cardinals offense still right now. They have not been a good offense this season. So I'm going to stick with Mason. I'm going to use this weekend or tonight's game to see what Benson and the Cardinals offense looks like against a good opponent. Like the Seahawks are not a pushover. Running back points allowed. The Seahawks here, actually, they have allowed yards here. They just haven't allowed touchdowns to opponent running backs yet. Sanders or Dylan Sampson half PPR. I'm going to go either way. These aren't great matchups. Dylan Sampson just did not get any snaps last weekend. He only had 5 snaps against the Packers. I kind of worry about this one getting out of hand, but that might actually play in his favor in terms of having to be out there in catch-up mode for the Browns. So I'm going to – it doesn't feel good coming off of 5 snaps. I think you got to go Sanders here. And good evening, Jason. You think I could get Cook for Chase Brown and Keenan? The guy needs a solid receiver. I think that's a pretty straight up fair offer, man. You're offering obviously a decrease at running back, but to get a Keenan Allen type receiver right now does have to feel pretty good for him. So I think that's a fair offer and worth sending his way. Downs or Mooney half PPR. I'm probably going to stick with Darnell Mooney. He's a guy that just had 10 targets last week. I do expect the Falcons to have a decent passing outlook this week against the Washington Commanders. The Commanders have allowed 4 receiving touchdowns. They've allowed almost 500 yards to receivers as well. It's a good spot. Whereas Josh Downs, Alec Pierce is probably not going to be out, but Rams are a good defense. And I don't think Josh Downs gets that big of a bump with Alec Pierce being out. Basically, Adonai Mitchell steps into that Alec Pierce role. So I'm going to shoot for the moon here with Mooney. I do think buying low on Jacobs is a nice opportunity here. If we pull up that Packers schedule, it's going to get pretty nice after. So we have a bye week, obviously, in week 5, which a lot of people are weird. They see that bye week and it makes those guys a little bit more tradable. Either before or during their bye week. But you're going to get the Cowboys here, and then you get the Bengals at home. You're at Arizona. You can run on the Steelers. You get the Carolina Panthers. That's a really nice opportunity for the Packers offense to kind of keep doing what they want to do. You get the Eagles on a Monday night, which is a tough matchup, and then you get the Giants, and then you got this run of NFC North matchups. You're going to finish up with Denver, Chicago, and Baltimore. I'm not really totally scared of these defenses here, so I think buying low on Josh Jacobs is worth asking about. Yeah, you might have to send him a usable back. Harris with the RJ Harvey or Kenneth Gainwell. Gainwell lost week 1. Gainwell was the number 1 back for the Steelers, but Jaylen Warren just kind of took it over completely in week 3. And I think with Denver, they really leaned on J.K. Dobbins last week. 35 of the 52 snaps, only 15 snaps for R.J. Harvey, but he runs 10 routes. He gets 2 rushing attempts, and he's still used in the passing game. Now, they only ran 52 snaps in this game, which is a very low total. If they are in control against the Bengals, maybe we don't have to see them lean on J.K. Dobbins as much. I think Gainwell doesn't excite me. I think Harvey, we know he's had some big plays and some big runs so far this season. I'm probably going to take a shot with RJ Harvey here at home against the Bengals, and maybe we see him close this game out. Chase Brown would bench Chase Brown, he says. Joshua says he'd go for Scatabo here. Chase Brown and Pollard, those guys are kind of back to back in my rankings this week. I am concerned for both of these offenses. I think Chase Brown, though, and keep in mind, guys, like they got absolutely trashed by the Vikings here. Chase Brown did not play a full game here. We saw Taj Brooks and Samaje Perine play some here in the second half. Chase Brown still had 4 receptions, still had 10 rushing attempts, and this was a complete laugh of a game. I think a more competitive game maybe against the Broncos is probably more likely than not. I think we're going to be okay with Chase Brown. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was last weekend. In full PPR league, it was nice to see the 4 receptions on 5 targets. We need the offensive line to play a little better and generate some opportunities here. Judkins or Breece rest of season. So I kind of expressed my concerns with, like, I think Judkins is a really fun running back right now. But I think there is some serious concern that no one's really baking in. Like, what happens to this offense when it goes to Dillon Gabriel, when we see Shedeur Sanders there and teams just start loading the box and make, like, Flacco's back here throwing the ball 40 times a game right now. Judkins is getting some routes. He's getting 18 carries and things like that. But what happens when they go to a different quarterback? That is a true concern for me. I think Breece Hall, even if it's Tyrod Taylor, if it's Justin Fields, Breece Hall is still a guy that I think has a little bit better outlook rest of season for me, but it's close. I worry about Judkins and this Browns passing offense. Like, what happens to it? And they just become one-dimensional, basically. Good evening to Brady. I actually picked up, I checked my waiver wires this morning, and Oronde Gadsden was available in a dynasty league. So I said, let's do it. So I picked up Gadsden in a dynasty league. I think in a redraft league right now too. I think I'd rather have Oronde Gadsden. Looking at the numbers in week 3, we saw Loveland get hurt, which does not help us. Whoops. This is back in week 2. Like, Loveland's not a starter. He ran 20 of the 40 routes back in week 2, only 36 of the 68 snaps. Cole Kmet's been their tight end 1 through all 3 games. So Loveland is not a hold in redraft leagues right now. So Gadsden would be my answer. And the other thing with Gadsden, I did see Will Dissly did not practice again today, and that's the reason why Gadsden got up last week. Dissly missed. They needed a third tight end, and all of a sudden this kid's catching 5 passes from Justin Herbert and 1 or 2 on the final drive of the game. So Gadsden looks like a guy that could be pretty exciting. Let me see if I can find some more questions in here. Good evening to Ezekiel. Asking for Trey Benson or Kenneth Walker. Interesting. This is a tough one, man. Arizona has been leaky against opponent running backs here. They're allowing 24 running back points per game, 2 receiving touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, 200 rushing yards. Seattle has not given up a rushing touchdown yet. And I am kind of concerned that Seattle's defense is pretty good. Like, this defense has been pretty stingy against all opponents so far. They held the 49ers in check, and basically Christian McCaffrey just caught a lot of passes in that game here. I think I'm going to lean with Kenneth Walker here. I think he's more likely to score a touchdown. We do have Zach Charbonnet back tonight, but I have a little bit better feeling for Seattle to win this game and control this game. I think they're 1.5-point favorites in Arizona. And if this game is in control of Seattle for the most part, you're going to see Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet both kind of continue to get carries here. So I'm going to lean Kenneth Walker. It's truly a toss-up. I have Walker a few spots ahead in my rankings. If you felt good about Trey Benson, I would say go for it, but I'm going to lean Kenneth Walker here. He's a guy that's got 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Charbonnet is still dealing with a foot thing. He was on the practice or injury report this week. We don't really know if he's 100% yet, even though he's going to play tonight. I think I'm going to lean with Kenneth Walker. I don't have much confidence in starting Browns players this week. They scare me. The Detroit Lions against opponent wide receivers, they have been leaky. They've allowed 4 receiving touchdowns, 34 catches, and 474 yards. to the wide receivers, you're basically, it gets tricky, man. Tillman's one of those guys where if he doesn't catch a touchdown, it's not going to be a good game. Maybe he goes crazy and catches like 6 for 100 without a touchdown. But the odds are for him to need a big touchdown play to make your day. So I don't have a lot of confidence. I do have confidence that they're probably playing from behind and do need to throw the ball in this one. So maybe that there's more confidence than there was last weekend against the Packers. That's for sure. I mean, I don't think it's crazy to play Seattle. I do feel comfortable. Like both teams are away. I always get a little bit nervous when I see away teams, but I usually defer to looking at the game totals in this one. And I'm actually going to go back to the website here. Let's look at the game lines real quick. And this is one of my favorite. So this is for free on the fantasyfellowship.com. I put out these team total charts here. And right now, Seattle is projected to win this game by 1.5. They're supposed to score 22.5 tonight. The Cardinals are supposed to score 21 points. The New York Giants are down here at 18.75. This is usually one of my metrics that I like to look at and make decisions. So if I can get 3 less points against my defense here, I'm probably going to go with the Chargers in this one. The Chargers did hold Bo Nix and the Broncos to a low total last week too. You get a rookie quarterback who's going to be gun happy. I think I'm going to play the Chargers, but I could see the Seahawks being pretty good tonight. And yeah, I agree with Brady here. Not crazy, but I do think they might be missed. I think they're missing a guy or two tonight, though. Let me see if I can get the. They get Devin Witherspoon back, so that's good to see. Not too many starters missing for Seattle. So if you have a good feeling, Thursday night football is usually a lower scoring night. I don't hate Seattle. They're in the top 10 of my rankings this week. I think I'm going to lean slightly to the Chargers. Let's see here. It might be time to dump Pat Freiermuth. I mean, just in a 1-year outlook here, the outlook's not great for Pat Freiermuth. Sure, he could have better years in the future. I want to look at this Jonnu Smith contract and see how long he's going to be there. So I'm seeing a 2-year deal for Jonnu Smith here. I mean, you're probably not going to start Pat Freiermuth anytime soon. I think maybe Gadsden over Pat Freiermuth right now. We might be there with Pat Freiermuth. And I like Pat Freiermuth, but it's not happening there with Jonnu Smith being there too. Random Post, good evening, my man. The old 13-team league, my man. We're starting 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 flex. We got Henry, Hampton, Mason, Benson. Whoo, we got running backs. We got receivers here. There's no way I'm going to get this question right, Random Post. You know that. I think you're playing Derrick Henry. I think you're playing Jordan Mason. And I think you're playing Omar Hampton. I think you're playing Nico, and I think you're playing JSN, and we're gonna get out of here with those, with that group. Henry, Mason, Hampton, 2 running backs and a flex. I'm gonna sit BTJ and Tet McMillan. I'm gonna play Nico, JSN at the receiver spots. I think that's a good team, though. Those are your problems, man. That's pretty dang good problems to have, my guy. Yeah, and so that's what I noticed too, is like Loveland had like 3 or 4 targets in the first drive or two, and it was like, oh man, we might be getting the breakout here, and we get derailed a little bit. I still think dynasty-wise, I'm still very hopeful because Caleb Williams looks good, and I do think Loveland's going to be better than Cole Kmet at some point this season. It's just not happening right now, and as long as he's not running, he's basically been running 50% of the routes. That's just not startable for a fantasy tight end yet. Jason says, Golden, Kirk, or Troy half PPR if Adams is out. I think this is the week for our guy, Matthew Golden. I'm going to go down here and look at some charts. The Cowboys, first of all, we'll show you this chart because the Cowboys, and I believe they've allowed the NFC offense. I believe they've allowed the offensive player of the week 3 straight weeks, and it's been the quarterback playing the Cowboys. Now, allowing quarterback points here, the Cowboys are dead last. They've allowed 900 yards, which is 300 per game, 7 touchdowns, which is just over 2 touchdowns per game. They've only got 1 pick. They've even allowed 2 rushing touchdowns and 94 rushing yards. This is a good spot to play passing games against the Cowboys. And then when we go in here and look, I want to look at some of these dang charts here because we're going to like what we see in a little bit. This is a passing matchups chart here. And the Packers offense, they are labeled in the eruption spot up here to the top right. This is passing offense, EPA, efficiency, per attempt on the bottom here. So the more efficient teams are on the right side here. The Packers are one of the more efficient offenses. And then you have on this axis, the defense EPA. The Cowboys are among one of the worst teams allowing big passing plays. So I think it's an eruption spot for the Packers passing offense. And we talked about it last night. Matthew Golden, he's missed on 3 huge touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. I think we see that this week happen. He's getting targets. He's getting carries. I think the opportunity to get 5 or 6 targets in this one or 2 of those will be a deep shot, and then he's going to get those carries as well. I think it's wheels up for Matthew Golden here. Yeah, I don't want to play Calvin Ridley right now. Although the thing about Calvin Ridley, I did see, let me see if I can find it real quick. It might be okay for Calvin Ridley this week. Where is my news? If I don't find it here, it was Derek Stingley. He was not practicing. Derek Stingley not practicing today. He missed practice yesterday too. They are preparing to be without their top cornerback against the Titans. Maybe Calvin Ridley, maybe it's his time. Rave, we traded Benson and Henderson for Josh Jacobs. I think that's fine. I mean, I think, obviously it hurts losing guys that we're excited about with Henderson and Benson, but I mean, you get a locked in top 5 running back play every week here. And if you missed it a few minutes ago, I looked at the Packers schedule, which I'll pull up here. They're going to get Dallas, which is a good spot for Jacobs. They get a bye week, so he'll get the fresh up. And then Cincy, Arizona, Pittsburgh, Carolina. That's a really nice run out for Josh Jacobs coming up around the corner here. Jacobs, Kieran, Hampton, ETN, and Ollie Gordon. That's a nice room there, my man. Oh, thank you. You gave JCM and Travion. Oh, you gave up JCM for Travion. Okay, that's a good steal. We did talk about Krosky Merritt not practicing earlier today. He might be out earlier today. Not jail. Good evening. What do we think about Kenneth Walker today? I'm going to try and not be biased. I am pretty excited about Kenneth Walker tonight. I think I got him as like my RB 13 or 14 on the week. I'm going to pull up his. Let's take a peek here at his rushing props for tonight. I do think the Seahawks are probably the better team. I think they're going to be able to control this game and hopefully find ways to get Kenneth Walker the ball. If we're looking at rushing yards here, I hate how it does this. Let me go back to NFL. Awesome. All right, let's click in this game. All right, so rushing yards plus receiving yards. No, I'm looking for rushing yards over under. Okay, they got Kenneth Walker at 50.5. People are kind of even on this, so we're going to give him 5 points in the rushing column. I think he goes over 50 yards. Rushing attempts, they have him kind of under 13.5. But if he gets 13 carries, we know all it takes is 1 or 2 big plays for him to make our day. So I have him probably, at 13, 14 carries, probably at maybe 60-something yards, something like that. And then his receiving props for the evening, they have Mr. Walker at over about 11 yards. So we're going to give him a catch or 2. They got him at 2.5 receptions. So of course he's going to be under, but they're kind of giving him 2 catches. So, just based on yardages and receptions alone, we're looking at 8 points, something like that. And then if he gets the touchdown, that's what's going to make it all that sweeter. And typically when he scores a touchdown and the Seahawks are moving, he's going to have a better day. He's actually got the best odds tonight for a touchdown. So I do feel pretty good about this. I'm going to say Kenneth Walker gets 14 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown. And then I think we're going to get 3 catches for Kenneth Walker tonight. Maybe, no, we'll go 2. We'll go 2 for 15. I think he hits his overs. I do feel good about Walker tonight. It's a division game. I think this is a really tough game for both sides, and we're going to see the Seahawks lean on Walker, JSN, Charbonnet, and see what's up. So I don't think we're going to get Jauan Jennings this week. I think he's missing practice. I would probably bet that he's not going to play in this one here. We've talked about Matthew Golden just a bit ago here in this awesome matchup. The Cowboys are dead last against receivers here. They've allowed 661 yards, 6 touchdowns, 39 catches. That's 47 points a game to the receivers. And we know the Packers have 3 receivers that are going to be out there, Wicks, Dobbs, and Golden. Even if we divide that number in 3 evenly, we're giving 15, 16 points to each receiver. So I do think Golden offers, he finally had 10 PPR points last week. So, if we are okay with the 8 to 10 point floor, because I think he's going to catch 3 or 4 or 5 balls in this one, and he's going to get some carries. If we're okay with that floor, I think the ceiling is pretty massive because we've seen him miss out on 2 90-yard touchdown catches and about a 40-yard touchdown the other night. So I'm starting Matthew Golden over Tony Pollard in my most important league, if that helps. Yeah, so that's one thing we're going to start to do as the season gets more one of the reasons why I don't bet on as many of those props to start the year is because I'm waiting for more data on teams here. You can see last week, week 3, I bet pretty much all touchdowns. Those ones I find earlier in the year I'm more successful at. And then as the year goes on, we're going to start doing more yardage props and things like that. I did not pick a prop for tonight's game, but I think tomorrow afternoon, Saturday, I'll probably start loading some props up there. But we're pretty good on the year. We're 20 of 30. That includes CeeDee Lamb getting knocked out of one game. But for me, I think now I might have enough data to start hitting some of these yardage props and things like that. So we'll start to get a little bit more loose with it. But I found touchdowns to be my better props earlier in the year. And don't get me, I do like Brian Thomas Jr. this week. I've liked him every week, and I think it's just a matter of time before he finally pops off. Because, I just keep thinking about it this way, guys. If these are bad games from Brian Thomas Jr., where he's got 9, 8, and 7 fantasy points, what's a good game look like? If these are his bad games, the good games are going to be really sweet. You play Keenan Allen here, and you feel pretty good about it. The Giants' passing defense, it doesn't scare me. They rank 31st here against wide receivers. Keenan Allen's probably going to catch another touchdown. So I would go with Keenan Allen here. I got a couple more questions in here for you guys before I get out of here. We had a game starting in about 10 minutes. ETN, MHJ are really at flex this weekend. I'm probably going to stick with Travis Etienne. I am concerned about Marvin Harrison Jr. tonight. The Seahawks are very good against receivers. And honestly, Marvin Harrison Jr. just has not looked. He had the touchdown week 1 against the Saints, which was nice, but this is a bad matchup for the passing offense here in Kyler Murray. I think it's probably a big Trey McBride night in terms of receptions and things like that. ETN going up against the 49ers. The 49ers are pretty good against the opponent running backs here. I think he's probably your safest bet. The Jags running game has been one of their best and most consistent pieces of offense here. I'm going to lean ETN. If Marvin Harrison scores a touchdown and goes off, I will feel bad. I usually tend in these flex questions, I usually try to get out of Thursday Night Football. Yeah, and I still think Marvin's got 2 drops on the year. I think he'll be fine long term, but he's kind of just this borderland wide receiver 3 flex that basically needs a touchdown for you to be happy with his output. I don't think he's a volume guy anymore. But there you go, guys. That's it for Thursday night. I will be live Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Central Time. That's when the inactive and active lists come out. So we'll cover that stuff there. If you guys do have questions, you guys can always hit me up on Twitter, X. My handle is @thefellowKGB. There should be somewhere in the description there. Hit me up there. Comment on the video. Thank you for watching. Good luck, guys. Go Kenneth Walker. I think the Seahawks win by a touchdown. We'll see how it goes, but enjoy the game, guys. We'll see you soon. Peace.